Okay, and welcome to Sound Mind, Sound Body. I'm Izzy Naud, and I host this Zoom workshop, Zoom session each month. I started this when did I start this? In 2023. And since last year, I have started receiving guests. And a bit about me, I'm a health and well-being coach for the music industry, artists, and also professionals. I became a health and well-being coach because I experienced a burnout as I was starting my artist management agency. And at that time, there weren't many professionals specialized in music who would understand the lifestyle we have. And that was quite a hard and tumultuous experience. And I'm happy and proud to say that I overcame this thanks to Chinese martial arts, acupuncture, and hypnotherapy. And from there, I decided to study myself healing and through qigong and shiatsu massage and also teaching tai chi. Now I help my clients become masters of their health and well-being. And today I have the honor to have Suzi Green as my guest. Thank you, Suzi, for joining us.
Pleasure. I was trying to keep poker face fairness, the cat. It's like,
With
please
your
don't
kitty,
compare.
yes. And I have I'm gonna introduce you briefly, and then we'll go through some conversation questions about resilience and touring.
Is this the bit where you read my bio and I cringe?
Exactly. So Suzi Green is a veteran tour manager with 25 years of experience in the music industry. She has transformed her career to focus on well-being in the demanding live music environment. Having trained as a naturopathic nutritionist and she is now finishing a master's in psychotherapy. She is combining these skills to support mental and physical health in live music's demanding environment. During the COVID lockdown, Susie founded the Back Lounge, where I was a guest 2 years ago, actually. Thank you so much. And the Back Lounge is a peer support group that has grown into a global community, providing connection and shared best practice. Susie's contributions have earned her accolades, including the TPI Unsung Hero Award, Pollstar's Impact International List, and Women in Live Music's Tour Manager of the Year. You! And she is an ambassador for Backup Tech and serves as a trustee for music support. Well, welcome, Susie, and this is really an honor to have you here.
Thank you. It's really funny when I hear that because everything you just said, it sounds like to me like you're talking about someone else. So yeah, it's an ongoing journey. What can I say? Humble and privileged to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And so, talking about your journey, I'd like to ask you the first question is what drew you into the world of touring and what kept you there for over 2 decades?
Yeah, God, I'm very old. I laugh actually at the veteran term because it makes me think of an artist I tour with who they always name her age and they never name the ages of male musicians that are in her band who are also notable. But so actually the word veteran is this generic thing that people use instead of revealing your age. It's funny. But yeah, I have come and gone from touring several times. I've always joked and say I've spent as long trying to get out of it as I have trying to get into it. It's always had this incredible pull for me. And then I've definitely hit, hearing your story about burnout, I completely relate to. And to be honest, I think I've hit it more than once, and you'd think I'd have learned the first time. But yeah, it's an ongoing journey for sure. Definitely have workaholic tendencies. But I was always drawn to live music because I was always absolutely obsessed with music.
Mm.
And then my other big obsession was travel. And it suddenly seemed a way to combine the two. And the rest has just been kind of lucky accident that I have some of the skill set required to kind of survive in that industry. And when I started touring, it was 90s and there weren't very many women tour managers. There weren't very many women behind the scenes, actually, makeup artists, maybe, whatever, very specific sort of gendered roles. And it's just been a privilege to see how that's changed. So, yeah, I hope that's sort of a long-winded way of answering your question.
Yes, definitely. Like back in the 90s, it was very male dominated. And now it's great to see there's like more and more women in all roles in the industry. That's so positive, these changes throughout the years and the generations.
100%.
Yes. Is there a particular moment or turning point that made you shift your focus toward well-being in the live music?
Um, yeah, I've had several shifts actually. I guess the first one was my first big burnout. I toured for about 10 years and I just hit this real depths of depression. I have a tendency towards depression as well. And as I've kind of learnt more about myself and what keeps me well, there's a real connection with overwork and my mood. And anyway, but the first time I'd hit it really bad was 10 years in. And I thought I've got to get out of this industry. I need to do something else really different. And the obvious draw was something that might help me sort of heal myself. So that's when I studied nutrition. And it took me about 4 years and it was part time. And what I was doing in the summer then was festival work because it seemed the obvious way to kind of earn some money. Already had some, knowledge in that area. I'd been to loads of festivals touring. So it was kind of having this weird parallel career between what I felt were like complete polar opposites. Um, then I'd also learnt massage somewhere along the way as well. So I used to do a little bit of massage backstage. And I learnt Thai massage because it's clothed, because I've always been utterly obsessed with Thailand.
Hmm.
Uh, Spent many lost months in Thailand. But there was this whole thing as well about when you're on tour with people and you can be in really close proximity, but there's this real kind of boundary about touching each other. But then something like closed massage is a really easy way to just put your hands on someone, obviously with their permission. And everyone hurts when you sleep on tour buses, when you're lifting heavy boxes, and this was like when I was doing smaller tours as well. Most people are pretty grateful if there's something you can do to just sort of stretch them out. It's a very yogic kind of massage. Um, and then my other shift was during the pandemic, which I guess this will come out, later when we talk about the back lounge. But it was when the world shut down and I started this peer support group, which has been an absolute education. And I've met so many incredible people through it all over the world. Literally, it's the best thing I've ever done. And it's been such an education to listen to people and hear their stories. And we talk about different things that seem relevant. And it sort of led me into this completely different journey I never would have thought of for a minute before the pandemic, which is the psychotherapy training. So I did, while we were in one of the three lockdowns in the UK, um, I did a foundation online, everything online, to see was I serious about committing to this training. Um, and then the world started to open up. I spent a year going back into touring, also got a health condition at that time. And it was kind of like a scenario of events that made me then commit to doing a whopping great big 3 year master's, which I finished at the end of this year. So several pivots along the way.
Mm, wow. And so, how did your training in naturopathy and psychotherapy change the way you see the music industry?
Um, Well, it's interesting because I think prior to the pandemic, it none of this stuff really had come to the fore. You know, there was a few people interested in healthcare, but not many. It wasn't really spoken about. But there was a specific artist I worked with. I'd actually wasn't on tour at the time. I'd stopped touring, um, but I got contacted by her manager, and they were looking for someone who had some knowledge about nutrition. And I'd met him years before at one of the festivals I worked at, and he sort of, I don't know even how he'd remembered that I did that, or maybe it found my profile on LinkedIn or something. But he reached out, and I got the job, and it got me back out there, touring and using my nutrition skills. And I never would have thought the two would meet. Jump from that to another tour where, you know, the rider was Haribo and 15 different types of spirits. And I wasn't a lot of using my nutrition skills, and various other bits where sometimes it was useful, sometimes it wasn't. Then the pandemic happened. Then going back to touring, I think has been brutal for an awful lot of people, me included. So it's been a very strange, again, gear shift between learning about psychotherapy and all the kind of self analysis you do when you commit to something like that, and then stepping into a high pressure environment with lots of people who quite often are struggling for one reason or another. So, um, yeah, I think the psychotherapy so far has been useful in some ways and has been a hindrance in others, because I think it kind of makes me quite raw and sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
less perhaps hard nosed than sometimes you need to be as a tour manager. So it's a mixed blessing, I would say,
Mm.
psychotherapy, but it's work in progress. We'll see.
Wow, interesting. And yes, talking about touring, and what would be the most challenging, uh, what are the most common challenges when artists and staff, crew are touring?
Um, Nearly always a schedule. Schedules are really hardcore, from just the stress your body is under all the time from moving constantly, the travel, the sleep deprivation, the, you know, when you're trying to move a show from place to place to place in all sorts of different circumstances, inevitably you come up with hitches and problems and stressors, and yeah, and throw into that sometimes bad food, you know, lack of support, the unexpected. It takes its toll on everyone.
Yes, wow. It's really very demanding, definitely. And
Hmm.
and in terms of the different dimensions of health, where would you say that it impacted most? Like between the sleep and the nutrition and the exercising and the stress management, would you say all of those are impacted? Is there one that's more impacted than the other?
I think all of them are impacted, and it's like, but I think the solid foundation of everything is sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think the wheels fall off fast when you don't get enough sleep. Doesn't matter how well you're eating, or if you're going to the hotel gym, if you've got access to one, or all the other things you do. If you're having prolonged sleep deprivation, it's going to hurt, and it affects everything, your physical and mental well-being.
Mm.
So it's a tough one.
Definitely, yes. Can you share a story of where resilience makes a difference during a tough moment on tour? And what is your definition of resilience?
Yeah. Uh, all right. I guess definition. Let's start with that. Um, I guess it means many things in many situations. It's kind of personal strength, self-awareness, flexibility. I
Mm,
think flexibility is a big one, especially in a job like this. What else can I say about it? It's definitely knowing your own boundaries and your own limits, so
mm,
that then you can gear what you do as much as you're able to anyway in the situation to sort of stay within those limits. I think that's resilience. And
right.
then I was trying to think of a specific kind of thing that's happened, um, where resilience has helped us pull through. And I couldn't, I mean, there's one bizarre thing, but mostly the theme of them all is, when you tour and when you do shows, things go wrong all the time. And if you're a tour manager, I mean, if you're in any role, but you're there to try and put things right again, or at least make things tolerable and work, sort of, given whatever it is that's gone wrong. Missing lost equipment. You get there and the desk isn't working, or, the band is overrun and the stage manager doesn't care. And now your changeover is only 15 minutes and all those things that happen. So you need resilience to be able to just pull together as a team. And that's the other thing. It's like working so that everyone is working together and knitting together. Um, and the only, and I couldn't think of a specific thing, but I remember one that really sticks in my head because it just was so bonkers. I went and did a show in front of the pyramids with a band called Clean Bandit. It was a couple of years ago. It was incredible. We were literally in the middle of the sand in front of it. It was a corporate event with the pyramids behind us, and like a policeman came up and had a look to see what we were doing on a camel. Of course, I've got a picture of him. It's mad. But it was there were lots of problems when we got there. And because they'd set up this event, in the middle of sand, in the middle of the desert, there were power problems and things were going off and the things were shorting and the lighting desk cut out at one point. There were lots of things, but what it was about the team. Everyone pulled together and everyone just, it was all hands on decks and constantly you're checking out everyone else, checking they're okay, trying to figure your little thing that you're in. And I think that's how you never do this stuff on your own. It's just not possible. You need other people around you, you need their support.
So,
So
as a tour manager, are you like the general who keeps all the troops together and taking care of all the different tasks?
sometimes, not always though, because again, it depends who you're working alongside. Quite often there's a production manager as well. Some tours I do doesn't have a production manager, but I mean, you're always going to have a bit of a hierarchy, and that's what you're kind of there to do. But especially when I'm going to just say it, the shit hits the fan. Sorry, it's the best way to describe it. When something goes wrong, it's not always you that has the skill set to, it might be you having the overview and trying to figure out what the problem, how you're going to sort it. But you've always got to be receptive, I think, to other people coming in and going, hey, actually, you know what, we could do it like this. So I think maybe you're the voice at the end going, okay, yeah, we'll do that. But it's collective, always.
Yes. And what comes to my mind is that one needs to be quite creative when sometimes some situation become complicated. What,
Yeah,
what,
and
what can you
calm.
say?
Yeah, it's like that image of the duck going like this under the water, and you have this sort of smooth kind of. I think the number of times when I think I haven't got a clue what we are going to do now, but while I'm still figuring it out, I'm thinking fast. It's like because the thing is, if you panic, then everyone knows they've got a panic. So whatever happens, you've got to kind of try and it'll be fine. Let's figure this out. Let's think this through. It's and that helps keep things calm as well. So.
Hmm. All right. One last question on this topic. What's often misunderstood about life on the road from a well-being perspective?
Um, whether it's a well-being perspective or not, is I think people have this misconception it's glamorous in some way. Uh, or they look at the travel schedule and they go, wow, you're going to all those countries. But they don't think about the reality of what it's like sort of being shunted around in, planes, cars, vans, sleeping in weird places, early starts, late nights, which obviously then from a well-being perspective means you can set off with the best intention in the world. I was just editing a paper for someone about surviving festivals, and it had a line in there that said, try and get 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. And I laughed and I had to edit it because I thought, have you ever been on a festival site? Like the reality of 7 to 8 hours sleep every night on a festival site, highly unlikely, but maybe you can get a good 4 or 5 hours some nights or good naps to top it up. So,
Exactly. Yes, that's a big challenge, huh?
yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
Sleep, it's really the main issue for artists and professionals on tour.
definitely, definitely.
Yes. Um, what are two or three daily habits that touring professionals can build to support their resilience?
Um, I guess I would say take breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I am the worst for this. It's really easy for me to get up, chuck in coffee, and then I start work. And I don't stop until the end of the night. You know, the truck doors are closed. You're back on the bus, the bus is rolling and, whatever, the kettle is on or people are cracking open a beer. But it definitely helps if you can put a few breaks in your day, whether it's like step outside and go and walk around the block if you're in a venue, get some daylight, stop and make a cup of tea and make someone else a cup of tea. Um, I mean, also, I'm a big advocate for meditation. And I think, and I'm a semi meditator. I go through stints of meditating successfully. And when I say successfully, I mean I show up. Um, and other times where I find it really hard to, and it's quite often it's when you need it the most that it's really hard. But definitely am a fan of just taking a few deep breaths, whether it's just a minute to notice that your heart is racing and that you're kind of starting to kind of escalate of just consciously trying to breathe and bring your nervous system down. I think that's a really big thing. Um, Eating to suit your type. Like for me, I'm a real snacker. So I've got to always have snacks with me. So I carry all sorts of things. I have at times as well carried a NutriBullet, and then you can have on the ride, berries and yogurt, or and then carry protein powders and things. So there's always something. But I think if you're able to, at least you can't always control your food, but at least if you've got some control about some of the snacks you eat, for example, because of what you carry, that's a really good habit. The other thing I'd say, if you drink, it's very easy to just get into a habit of habitually drinking every night, because everyone does it. It's a fast way to sort of wind down, especially if you're on a bus because everyone's together. But try and have 2 to 3 nights a week where you don't drink,
Mm,
and your liver and your constitution will feel the difference 100%. Just gives your body a little bit of time to recover.
yes, definitely. I'm grateful that I barely drink. I started since October 2022 and started reducing and then I just enjoy not drinking. Just like then I can party until late and have a short night, and in the morning I feel still okay. So it does really make a difference.
It makes a huge difference. I mean, I barely drink. I have stints when I'm sober. Sometimes I'll get into a habit of I'll have a glass of wine. It tends to be like my limit now is like 2 glasses of wine or one really good margarita. Um, but that's it. And often not when I'm working, actually. It's too much going on. My head's too busy anyway. To sort of try and forcibly squash down with alcohol doesn't work for me. It makes me anxious.
Yes. And also for women who are looking at this session or at the replay, women when we get older, like towards the menopause, alcohol can definitely makes the symptoms go stronger. So it is recommended to reduce alcohol when we are a woman going through menopause.
Yeah, if you think your liver is processing all your hormones as well as the alcohol, and I tell you what, alcohol, when you're in perimenopause and menopause, messes up your sleep so much. It's so noticeably different that, again, I know if I'm going to have a couple of glasses of wine, I know my sleep's not going to be good that night. Sometimes I still want to do that anyway. But yeah, it's a decision that, I can't overemphasize that connection. You're absolutely right.
Yes. Um, what role does okay? What inspired you to start the back lounge, and how has it evolved over time?
Um, yeah, it was a crazy whim Because I was looking for some support myself. I'd had COVID March 2020, really early on. And it had left me. And then I'd like watched my diary empty, and I had a really great year of work, and it all fitted together with two different artists. And then just diary just emptied fast. And I was in a panic about it. And then all the furlough stuff in the UK was announced, and I wasn't going to be part of that. And, there was a lot of things to worry about at the time. And so I was looking for a friend of mine who was a school teacher, and she was meeting other teachers on this thing called Zoom, which we'd never heard of at the time. And she said it really helped to be able to talk to other people about what they were going to do as teachers. And, obviously, really, really hard, how to sort of keep kids connected. And so I was looking for a group for music people, like music touring people, and I couldn't find anything closer than the US. And then there was a sort of not-for-profit called Backline Care, and they were running twice a week peer support group for anyone involved in touring. So I joined their calls, and it was amazing, really amazing. The lone Brit, lots of Americans and a couple of Canadians just talking about, and all of us having the same experience, which was really profound, that you could be on the other side of the planet to each other and have these like common experiences, same worries, same, versions anyway of same worries. So um, I thought we should start one here in the UK for people on this sort of time zone, because the US ones were sort of staying up late and
Mm.
drinking an awful lot of cups of tea at 1 in the morning because they were late. So, and again, I don't know how I got the guts to do this, because I'm not really a sort of, out front kind of person. Um, but I stuck out something on Facebook, and people seemed interested in the idea. And that's how it started. Just a bunch of people talking about what is happening, how can we deal with this? And I thought at that point it might go on for a couple of months. And then it became quite apparent it was going to be a lot longer than that. And then I remember at the end of the first year, we all thought, oh, thank God, it's 2021. It's all going to be different. And then the year started, and it was so much worse. So we started as well bringing in guests. And part of that was my nervousness about hosting and talking and thinking, I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, and I don't know how to support people. I created this space, but, who am I to tell people how to feel better? So I was bringing in guests, and I was reaching out to people. And I guess because at that time, a lot of people had more spare time than they would normally have, because a lot of people weren't working.
Mhm.
So I literally cold called people and said, running this group, would you be interested in coming on? And just got the most amazing guests. And the more I did it, the more confident I got in asking. A few people said no, but most people said yes. And we just had the maddest range of people. And it's kind of carried on like that. So it's always been a mixture of like check-ins and then guests and experts. And like next week, we're going to have two visa agents on, because there's a lot of nervousness at the moment about around visas, and especially US visas, and how long it's taking and what the problems are. So it's very much a sort of response to what's going on out there. So, what people want to know about. So the group kind of started with this sort of idea of we'll support each other through this pandemic thing. And then it became really obvious that actually there were so many other things that it could be useful for. So that's how it sort of developed and carried on. And it's as much now about education, and educating ourselves, me included, as it is about a community. And I love that, we all have people all over the world. It's amazing. You go on tour and you get to meet these people you've seen on screen. It's wild. So yeah, it's developing. Definitely, it's changing. And I guess the psychotherapy will be another development as well, that still figuring out how that's going to fit into it all, but it will.
Yes, I'm curious. Do you offer some services also to the community, or is there like some specific activities, or maybe therapy or something in case
So
you need
my
extra
I've just
support?
yeah, I've hit my I'm at my first level training, and a lot of people stop there. And obviously, what I will bring to therapy is lived experience of what this lifestyle is, because my speciality is the music industry, and any kind of weird, colorful, crazy, uh, similar industry, whether it's film shoots, TV, long hours, strange lifestyles, you know, not much continuity, that kind of thing. So I haven't yet come on the back lounge as a therapist because it feels like a sort of bit of a crossover ethically,
Mm.
that it makes sense to invite other therapists to come on, and then I'll host and I might chip in and share thoughts. And but I guess currently I'm still figuring it out. I mean, the whole thing has been figure it out, make it up as I go along. I've never had like a sort of trajectory as to this is where I see it going. It just seems to have kind of, one thing happens and something else happens, and I'll meet someone else and they say, do this. And I mean, it really has been, I don't think I've ever done anything like it where it's felt so kind of naturally progressive and carried by the ideas and all the people I meet along the way. So um, I feel like that was a really long answer to your question.
It's
Sorry.
all right.
Let me turn off my emails. I'm so sorry. Hang on a sec, because that you'll hear that on the call. Sorry, I thought I'd done it. There you go.
Okay. Mm, how can people prepare mentally and physically before going on tour to protect their energy and health?
Um, Again, still figuring that one out. Uh, I guess the key is the word prepare. I think you have to plan to take care of these things. I think unless you've thought out before you go, what do I need? And all of us are different. Um, Obviously, we have some similarities, but we vary, as in what kind of food makes us at our best, how much sleep we really can or can't get away with. And obviously, you might think, well, how can you control something like your sleep? But you can, because you maximize the chance where you can have a sleep in or a late start, or if it's a travel day on the bus and you've got one of those weird 24 hours on the bus, um, any way you can catch up if that's what you need to do. Likewise, exercise is a really big thing for a lot of people too. So, how can you continue some sort of exercise routine when you're away? So, it depends on what you like doing. If it's running, it's a pair of shoes, minimal amount of kit. If it's yoga, it might be a yoga mat, doesn't take up so much space. I've got really thin travel one. Um, if you like gym work, it could be having bands or a TRX, or, I remember there's a tour I did as well. I had some dancers, and a couple of the dancers also did a lot of kind of aerobics teaching. And actually, I found one of them during the pandemic doing classes. It's amazing. But we used to do impromptu classes and have like bottles of water as weights, doing repetitive weights. So I think it's like, but I don't think any of that is going to happen if you haven't already made the decision before you go that you need to do these things. And same for when it's your mental health, it's back to that. What do you need to support? Is it you get overstimulated? There's an awful lot of neurodiversity in the industry, and sometimes you're just bombarded all the time by noise, people, lights. I know some people have found things like going out with noise cancelling headphones on and just taking a bit of time, or if it's just going off, having a cup of tea somewhere when no one knows where you are for a few minutes, and putting you, I mean, you're not supposed to do this if you're a tour manager, but sometimes you just got to turn your phone off for 20 minutes just to be able to get the headspace to then cope with everything that's coming at you. So, whatever it is that works for you, and it might be even trying certain things. And I've definitely come to the end of tours where I think, of those 5 things I was trying to do, I managed 2 of them. And then some tours, it will be I'll manage 5, and sometimes it goes all out the window. But it's that same thing for, like, I think exercising, when people skip an exercise day, when they're at home, you've got to really tell yourself to get back in the saddle and just make it 1 session you've missed and not 2. So it's like you have to constantly be checking in with yourself, not beating yourself up when it doesn't happen, because not everything's under control all the time. So, but it's plan ahead, prepare, definitely.
Hmm. I have a question. Um, some bands they would tour with a physical therapist, or like rock bands, or also it's Lou Reed. He had a Tai Chi master, and sometimes he
Oh,
would tour with his Tai Chi master would come on tour with him. Is there?
yeah.
Have you heard of anything happening currently? Of,
Uh, I mean, I was thinking we had actually, there's a really amazing personal trainer, Kashi, who came on and did some HIIT classes. We've got recordings of them actually, they're up on my website, during the pandemic. He goes out and tours with bands, and he gets everyone, the bus drivers, the caterers, never mind the crew of the band, everyone running up and down stairs and arenas and, using anything to hand to practice. But I have to say, in an ideal world, and I know actually there is starting to very slowly be, sometimes there'll be a therapist on tour. More often than not, they'll drop in, drop out. And again, it's a difficult thing for a therapist to have. You need strong boundaries when you're speaking to, people that may all be talking about each other. Inevitable conflict comes up on tour. But it's always about the bottom line, it's always about budgets. And I think the thing that's going on at the moment, budgets are so tight. The economic climate is really shaky. Budgets are only going to get tighter. And sadly, the things that get cut from budgets first are the things that, you know, from managers or whatever who have the final say, see as possibly dispensable. But sometimes, it's the difference between a tour happening or not, so I get it. So I would hope when things get a bit easier in touring, it will become normal that more tours will see professionals out with them to support people in that way. But at the moment, unless you're on a massive tour, still still unusual.
hmm. Okay. Um, do you see a culture shift around wellness in the industry?
Starting to, a lot of conversations happening again, and this is, I guess, my experience being a tour manager. I'm out there doing it, and I'm speaking all the time to other people who are out there doing it, and I think it's got harder the last few years. Um, there seems to have been a rise in kind of bullying. There's again a big mix up to, I think, how touring crew are made up of new people coming into the industry who may be still learning the ropes, who perhaps move up quicker because there's spaces higher up because other people have left touring. And whilst you might think that's good news, it's not good news always for the person involved because the pressure can be intense if you don't have enough experience or you don't have enough support moving up as well. um, People leave. It gets too much. It can be a really hard industry, which is why I think having access to, communities who you can lean on, people that maybe aren't on the tour that you're on, the phone a friend type thing of like, I'm having a really rough day. Is there someone around I just need to check in, remind myself that I'm sort of normal or whatever normal is. But, I think those kind of things are starting to happen. But the things around wellness start to happen that tend to be the things that don't cost money as well. I feel like I was just started answering the question before.
Mhm. Yes.
What were you asking me again? Sorry.
No, no, this is different.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to younger artists or crew just starting out, and if they're eager to protect their mental and physical health already from the beginning, what would you recommend them?
Try and find people that are already doing what you want to be doing. Because I think if you've got people to ask questions, that's great. It's funny because we've run some sessions in the back lounge. They're all recorded and I can share them around, so you're going on your first tour. What do you need to know? Because again, it's really intimidating when you start out if there's no one to ask questions. No one wants to feel like the stupid person, or no one wants to feel like, hey, it's my first tour. I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone's pretending. Even the people that have been doing it a long time, they're still kind of pretending as well. So I think if you have access to people you can ask, who know a bit more than you, um, that there's normally people normally love being asked as well. It's like, people like to feel like they're the expert. So I think the more we can all kind of pull each other up, the better. So find people and find resources so you can be as informed as you can when you start.
Yes, and asking is very important.
Mm, yeah, don't be afraid to ask.
Yes.
I think as well, it's funny, it came up on the session we did about that. So you're going on your first tour. Is it okay to ask when you don't understand? So you've been given an instruction or you feel like you're being asked to do something a bit stupid and you don't really get it. Is it okay to ask? And what came up, we had a couple of tour managers, production manager, a backstage coordinator on it. And it was also kind of think, do you know the answer to the question? Are you asking something that you don't really want to know the answer of? Are you just trying to air your opinion that you think this is a stupid thing to do? Or do you genuinely, you know, want to know what it is you're being told to do and how, so that you can do the best you can? So I think it's also kind of check yourself, because if you want to get asked on more jobs, you get jobs from who you know, who you've worked with, someone likes you, they pull you onto the next tour where there's a gap. So it's like, yeah, just being pleasant, nice, um, and asking questions that are reasonable questions.
Great. Yes. And how can artists, managers, and crews work together to create a more sustainable and supportive touring environment?
I think the answer is is in the question. I think they all need to talk to each other. I mean, it's again, I ran a session. It wasn't for Back Lounge, it was for TPG, sort of big group of tour and production managers who got together during COVID, to sort of again try and make touring better. And it was, how can you get people to be on the same page, particularly with regards to mental health? And that's what comes in, we're talking about budgets and having a professional access to a professional costs money. But if you can get people to talk about the schedule, why this schedule is nuts, how can we try and mitigate some of its kind of effects? Is there an easier travel solution that can mean more of a day off, after, say, a brutal week or something like that? And those kind of things take conversations, because sometimes that might not be the cheapest way of doing something. But if you know your artist and you work with them for a while, you might kind of know their limits more than sometimes even a manager does, because you've seen them under pressure, you've been with them day in, day out. So if there's a way you can communicate where people don't feel like telling them, this is what's got to be done, it's more a kind of, this might be a more reasonable way of doing this. And, at the end of the day, it's about how many shows can you do? Because every show is more money in the pot, but also the shows have got to be good. The artists have to be supported. And for the artists to be supported, the crew need to be supported and working together as a team. So it has to be this sort of working ant colony. And that means you've all got to talk to each other.
Great. Yes, definitely. It's all efforts must be put by everybody in the for the same goal to make the best of the show, and uh, and that everyone gets out of it satisfied and uplifted.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the
So,
reason for doing it.
when is there anything you'd like to ask yourself?
Ask myself.
Well, not to yourself, but like ask me about, on the topic. of resilience or the health and well-being in the music industry?
Um, so I remember when you came on the back lounge, you had various different moves that had specific effects.
Hmm.
So what would be a move that, if you could teach people one move that would help calm their nervous system?
So I have one exercise which is called a Chi Belt Qigong,
Right.
and it's a slow movement. I can show you.
Yeah.
So like this, we stand up, and the 2 feet are separated the width of the hips, and we bend slightly the knees. The shoulders are relaxed, and then we breathe in, and the hands go up to the level of the shoulders, and then we breathe out, bend the knees, and push an imaginary balloon inside the stomach. And the goal is to make it the slowest possible. And we repeat that movement. It's a very simple movement. Breathe in and hands go up, and breathe out, bend the knees, and we can push the imaginary balloon. I can send you the link to a video of this so you can share it around.
Even watching you is calming. And you know what's great? You've got this stripe on your top as well that makes so you can really see the movement.
Yes, so if you want to see it on my profile, it's like this. Inhale, hands go up, and then bend slightly the knees, and the hands go down towards the belly, and again. And so, because the movement is very slow and that we're concentrating on the breath, this regulates the nervous system.
Mm,
So, we switch from the parasympathetic parasympathetic to the sympathetic.
mm,
In, Instead of being on fight or flight, we go into relaxed flow mode.
mm.
And that helps to get centered and grounded. And it's an exercise that I recommend before going on stage for people who have stage fright, for example. That's just like gets us connected to our body.
Crew gets stage fright as well. I mean, I
Yes.
really realized that after the pandemic, where suddenly we went back into massive shows, like huge shows. Remember it was actually my second show. I did a warm-up show, but my first proper show I did after shutdown on Freedom Day, as it was called in the UK, was main stage at Latitude Festival. And everyone was freaking out. The front of house sound guy was just absolutely like, God, I haven't touched a desk in, you know, a year and a half.
Ooh,
We all had stage fright. It's an interesting thing. Yeah.
wow. And how did you deal with it at that moment?
Um, well, it's funny because we'd done a lot of talking on the back lounge about just knowing that other people felt like that too helps you deal with it because you think, I'm not a freak. This is something, we're all human. We're all human beings trying to deal with it as best we can. And actually what we did was the night before that show, we did a little warm-up show in a tiny packed venue. And at the time, there was this whole thing about COVID protocol as well and bans. The minute anyone tested positive, that was it. You were off the road. And we got to this tiny little gig in Bournemouth. And it turned out the show rep who was looking after us, found out halfway through the day that one of the band he'd been with the night before had just tested positive. So that was it.
Oof.
He never entered our production office again. I was like, gloved, removed his bags from the back room. We were fine. We got through the festival. But actually, a couple of people stayed at Latitude afterwards, a couple of the band, and got COVID. There was a COVID spike after that festival.
Oh
I
my
mean, it was like a white knuckle ride. touring at that time. It seems so weird to think about it now. God, we went through a lot.
Wow, that is very intense. Yes. I'd like to finish up this part. Do you want to share the way we can contact you? And I will also share this in the follow-up email and the description in the YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so easy to find. I got a website which is healthy-touring.com. I'll give you these for the resources you share. Yeah, you can get me through that. There's Facebook, which is the Back Lounge Music and Events group. I'm on Instagram, the Back Lounge Touring. Yeah, I'm easy to find.
Okay. Yes. Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna start the recording here and we're gonna have the safe space now.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.